Okay, so the podcast is a It's so hard. So the podcast is called Public Display of Connection. It's a podcast where I have my favorite people on and they bring a poem that they like and then they read it, we discuss it, and then we get into more maybe deeper conversations and intimacy and talk about like where we connect and why we connect. And you might be thinking right now, hey, Aubrey, I don't like poetry. I don't get it. It makes me want to vom every time I look at it. And to that I say, maybe you just haven't read enough poems. Maybe you haven't read your poem yet that will really open you up to the idea of new ideas. And in the words of Walt Whitman, be curious, not judgmental. And you know, maybe you'll hear a poem that you connect with and you'll start racing to your local library or bookshop and screaming at the top of your lungs, where the hell is the poetry section? And I'll be waiting there in the next aisle, creepily watching you, saying, hey, I told you so, and I'll be happy for you. In this episode, we sit down with Aristotle Dreher. What a brain and what a hunk, reading a poem by Langston Hughes. We're going to talk about identity, spirituality, racism, how nobody can spell either of our names, and of course, nipples. Come along for the ride. Right. Hello, baby.
Hey, baby. How you doing? I like that you're like ketchup and mustard on your couch right now.
I would be like navigating into this spot.
I know, you're like a contortionist. You're sliding, you're slithering. You're like butter dripping off a hot biscuit.
Thank you.
But that's the best compliment you've gotten all day.
Best.
The best. Pretty good.
Yes.
Easing into it.
Woosa.
What a morning.
Right? It's
Yeah.
lovely out. Birds are chirping, unfortunately.
Wild invasive parrots.
Do you have parrots by your house?
I don't.
I'm ruining the day they come a knocking with their squawking.
Yeah.
Because like they're in like a few neighborhoods that I regular, and
Yeah.
they're always so obnoxious that I'm
Right.
just like, I swear to God, if they move them to my neighborhood,
You're going to fricassee some parrots.
sorry, PETA.
Yeah. When I was in the park, Griffith Park, I was hiking one time. There was someone with parrots, like giant African, like beautiful
Oh, nice.
parrots, and they were flying them. They were letting them fly, and then they were like coming back, like a falconer, but with parrots, giant ones.
I just undid my top. Sorry.
Oh, this is getting exciting.
It's getting
This is good.
steamy.
It's pretty good. I like how this is going.
Tits are flying. Parrots are flying. Hi.
My buttons might come off at some
Oh
point.
my God. Yes, please.
Just do one at a time every 5 minutes.
That's how we get the likes and subscribes.
Yeah.
Who are you?
I don't know. Who's anybody really? Honestly, I have a really tough time with that lately, especially because I'm like, I don't really know what defines a person at this point.
First, you could say your name, maybe.
Yeah, but that was given to me. My name's Aristotle. Someone gave me that name.
Yeah.
So yeah, I like it. I've learned to own it, learned to accept it. I think when I was young, I was made fun of it. Aristotle drinks his bottle, stuff like that.
Oh,
yeah, when I was a kid. Yeah, what did they say to you?
That's not even like an original, like fun nickname.
I know. Yeah. What did they tease you with?
Well, my mom was probably the main culprit for that because she would just make up like these atrocious nicknames for all of us kids, and it would be like the worst nickname, the better. Or
Yeah.
mine was Bob Corn on the Cob.
That's
and then there
pretty
was a longer version of it where it was like Bob eats corn on the cob like a slob. My sister is Mariah Papaya Sticks Dextia E-legged I-legged bow-legged Raya.
That's pretty creative.
And then my brother
Wait,
is
does it get better?
it gets worse.
It gets better for me.
Lucas Pucus, big fat mucus.
This is great. That just reminds me of that story that may be a little bit problematic today, but do you remember Tiki Tiki Tembo, No Sarembo, Cherry Berry, Richie Pip, Perry Pembo?
I'm slightly familiar.
Yeah. I think these days you can't do that. You know, it's crazy Because that reminds me of a... I'm going to get real racist on your show today. It's not racist. I'm going to invoke some crazy times in the history of like music and literature. One is when their song that's like, I told the witch doctor and the witch doctor said to me, ooh, ee, ooh, ah, ah, ting, tang, walla, walla, bing, bang, which is totally racist because the guy's like, hey, witch doctor, your language might as well be gibberish to me. Yeah.
Yeah.
Where do you go? I'm throwing curveballs at you.
Where's my coffee?
This is great. I love this. You want some of mine?
It's just making me sweat.
Yeah.
I'm just gonna, listen. I'm
here to listen.
I'm here to listen and to agree with whatever you say because you're so cute.
You're cute. Oh.
Yeah. What's been your experience with poetry? Do you own any poetry books, or is it something that like you're more of a musical person? So is your experience with the fancy word, which is, I guess, what I'd call poetry, more musically inclined, or is it?
Yeah, I'm definitely more lyrical. Like I write lyrics. So, I have an appreciation for poetry and like rhyme schemes and meter. So like that to me has always jumped out. So I've applied that in a lyrical sense, and lyrics are different in my mind, at least. I mean, I don't know how people want to define lyrics versus poetry, but there's a lyricalness to lyrics in the sense that you can sing them more so, I'd say. And whereas poetry is more like rhythmic, it's more perhaps absent a melody, but definitely containing a rhythm.
Yeah, there's like a structure there that doesn't always apply to music. Although you could if you're like Bjork or something. Yeah. She just does whatever the fuck she wants.
Well, she's Bjork.
Yeah.
I don't know if you know Bjork, but...
I do, actually. She's here. Yeah, she's here right now.
She's here right now.
Have you read poetry before?
I've written a lot of poetry when I was a kid, and I also had the complete works of Edgar Allan Poe. I had this one book that I would go to the library and check out probably like once a month, all of third grade. I would go to the library and I'd check out this book, and I don't remember the name of it, but it was a book of poems, and it was the smaller sized book. I was 8, and I could read it cover to cover every time I sat down. And it was just a collection of poems. Yeah. And I remember one was called, if anybody can find this for me, one was called, My Name is Pink, but you can call me Pinky. And it was like a little black girl. It was like a drawing of a little black girl. And she was like, my name is Pink, but you can call me Pinky.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I just remember sort of connecting to that, actually.
What about it?
As a little black girl myself. Like,
what about it resonated with you?
I guess the name thing.
Oh, because of the nickname?
Yeah, the nickname.
So like, I have nicknames.
Yeah, my name's Aristotle. You can call me Ari.
Yeah.
Yeah.
One of the things that I think we have in common is like people just cannot spell our names, especially at Starbucks. I think you had a series about that where they were just atrociously spelling your name over and over again, where it was like Aristotle, Aristotle, like
Aristotle.
Yeah.
Well, that's a really funny thing because I'm just amazed at how many different ways they can spell it wrong.
Yeah.
Which I'm shocked. I'm taken aback. I didn't know there were that many combinations. It's like Aristotle factorial.
That's how my name is, where it's like they'll go Obree. I'm like, have you ever seen that name? Like Audrey is a very common name.
Yeah.
But the B they fucking blows their mind, and then they don't know what to do with themselves.
Yeah. My brother called you Audrey a few times.
And that's why he's dead. Just kidding.
God rest his soul.
Sorry.
He was a good brother until he mispronounced your name.
No, actually, I don't mind Audrey because it's like, it's close enough. But the spelling is just baffling to me that they would just get it that wrong. Because also with yours, too, it's like a famous name.
You would think that.
Speaking of famous names, who is the poet that you are reading today?
There's a guy, I don't know if you heard him. His name's Langston Hughes. He's like a famous American poet, and happens to be black, which is interesting because a lot of times I look at a lot of like Black History Month and stuff like that, and they're like, look at these famous black artists and stuff who are American or African American artists. Or I went to the LACMA last year or 2 years ago, and they're like, these are African American portraits, like by African American artists, like a whole room of them. And I'm like, hey, hold on a second. So these are American artists. You know what I mean? It's the kind of we sort of still put in categories or like segment off, even if we're unintentionally doing it, or we're like trying to honor it. And I get it. It's like we're specifically looking at the works of Black Americans. Cool. But there's still that sense of non-inclusiveness. I think it's also important to acknowledge the works of people, marginalized groups, and it is important, especially when someone's like voicing their own poetry and where they're coming from. It's good to know about the poet themselves.
Yeah.
And that's super important. But at the same time, I'm kind of like, can't it just be American?
It's like when people, it's like when people are say like, oh, a female director.
Yes.
It's like, no, just a director.
Exactly.
So, but at the same time, like celebrate being a woman or being whatever ethnicity you are.
And lean into the experience or sharing that personal experience that you have.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think there's a specific relatable experience for adult people of color in America. Of all people of color in America, all marginalized groups, all people who are, not of the majority, we'll say. There's definitely... It makes you relate better. There's more empathy. You can see things through a different lens.
Yeah.
And I find that all fascinating.
Would you like to read the poem?
Yeah, I'll read the poem.
By Langston Hughes, and then we can talk a little bit more about him.
This is timely because it was just the 4th of July.
Oh.
This poem is called I Too by Langston Hughes. I too sing America. I am the darker brother. They send me to eat in the kitchen. When company comes, but I laugh and eat well and grow strong. Tomorrow, I'll be at the table. When company comes, nobody'll dare say to me, eat in the kitchen then. Besides, they'll see how beautiful I am and be ashamed. I, too, am America.
Good stuff.
Yeah, me too. I'm America.
Yeah.
You America?
Yeah. And you're beautiful.
You're beautiful.
Oh my God. What were the lines that popped out to you? Like what were the ones that you're like, fuck yeah.
The eat in the kitchen part is kind of like, there's some interesting things that come to mind right away. My mom, she was married. This is an interesting fact. I don't even know if this is relevant, but I'm going to tie it in anyway.
Bring it in.
My mother was married to Paul Whiteman Jr. When in like 1970, and Paul Whiteman Sr. was known as the King of Jazz, and he conducted the George Gershwin Orchestra. So like music like Rhapsody in Blue.
How did I not know this about you?
Well, that's why you have a podcast. You can learn all about this. So Paul Whiteman Jr. was a jazz drummer. His dad was a famous jazz musician. He worked with the Gershwins and whatnot, who were famous composers of the early 20th century. Anybody out there? I feel
Gershwin.
Yeah. I don't know how much people know about that. But I also don't want to be condescending, so Google it. So my mom's used to say that when she was married to Paul Whiteman Jr., that there'd be all these stories that she would hear filtered through him of musicians, especially black jazz musicians, early 20th century, used to have to come in through the kitchen. They used to have to, the help had to eat in the kitchen, and musicians were considered the help. Earlier, you asked me who I am. I definitely identify as a musician, if that helps. But that changed with Paul Whiteman Sr. He actually was like, no, we're coming in through the front door. Musicians are not the help. We're part of the show. We're part of the entertainment. We're part of the night.
The best part.
Yeah, if you ask me. So the entertainment would come in through the front door after that, actually. But there was a movie a few years ago. I think it was based on a Toni Morrison book or something. And it had Forrest Whitaker, and it was called The Help, I think.
Forrest Whitaker one was the
White House.
Not The Bachelor.
Yeah. It was The Bachelor. Forrest Whitaker on The Bachelor.
Forrest Whitaker is The Bachelor. Oh my gosh.
I'm sorry, I'm going to have to send you home tonight. I don't know how Forrest Whitaker talks.
Very softly.
Yeah.
I've waited on him once. He's the nicest man. So the front door.
Yeah.
So that was what resonated with you about that, was like that's kind of like your...
So there's like, I guess there's a couple things that resonate. Being a darker brother, being a brown person, being a person of color in America. There's definitely that, like, there's part of the world relegated to you. And then the rest is like default, you know, I guess in American society. This might trigger a lot of people, but whatever. This is definitely something I relate to, and it's been my experience, a lot of my experience. For instance, I remember when I was a kid, I went and saw a movie with Denzel Washington and my friend.
Never heard of him.
Yeah, you ever heard of him? He's pretty good. He and Forrest Whitaker worked together in several movies. And someone was like, oh yeah, he really is like the black version of XYZ. Oh. You know what I mean? And it was kind of like...
rude.
Yeah, it's like, so there's the default white guy, and then there's versions of that white guy. Yeah. So there's stuff like that I would just sort of hear growing up and be kind of like, what does that mean? What does someone mean by that? Like, they're the black version of this, or they're the brown version of that.
Yeah.
Which means there's a default, there's the version, and then there's like a knockoff version, or an alternate from the main thing. And I kind of find that it gets under my skin a little bit, you know?
That makes sense. The structure is already set out as like, right, white people are the structure, and then we're going to plug you into that structure. Yeah. Which sucks.
Yeah, we're getting heavy.
Yeah, no, well, this is interesting.
Yeah, so like the marginalization of people of color, marginalized groups, etc. It's a real thing that some people may not experience to that level, to where you're literally having to eat in another room from people.
So how did your mom meet that? What was his name again?
Paul Whiteman.
Paul Whiteman. Yeah. How did she meet him?
I don't know. That's a good question. We can call her. But yeah, she in 1970 was married to Paul Whiteman, who was like 20 years her senior.
Was she in the jazz scene?
No, but he was a professional jazz drummer. He like every night was doing a gig, playing them brushes or whatever. I don't know. Yeah. He's not related to me. I don't know.
Like, is your mom musical at all?
Hope my mom's not watching.
She might.
Listen, my mom played the flute in high school, and she'll never let you forget that.
Oh my God, my dad does that too. He's like, I don't know if you know this about me, but I played the clarinet in 7th grade, and I was pretty good.
It's pretty good. I got my mom a flute a few years ago for Christmas.
Oh, actually. That's cute.
And a really nice one too.
Yeah. Has she played it, do you think?
She took it out of the case and assembled it. I've seen. She did play it, actually.
Yeah? Is she good? Right, is she like measure up to her smack talk?
My mom plays for Jethro Tull now. I don't know if you know that, but she and Lizzo are tight.
Yeah, actually, when you hear Lizzo playing, it's not actually Lizzo, it's your mom.
It is. My mom's backstage.
Yeah, it's like a Milli Vanilli situation.
It really is. Lizzo, she's stealing all that.
Yeah.
All my mom's riz.
It's a scam. She's not actually a flautist.
A flautist.
Flautist.
An Aubrey.
An Aristotle.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that poem, one of the lines that I liked was how he's talking about how he's like, okay, like I'll be in the kitchen, but I'm going to be here building my strength patiently and being like, I'm going to win. I know this. But like, this sucks and I hate it. But like, just so you know, I'll be here. And like, I know you'll come around and eventually think that I'm beautiful. But in the meantime, like, I'm just going to like take care of myself and not take any sort of like hateful stance or reciprocate that kind of like yuck energy, which I liked, that calm kind of like, I know I'm cool and I know you're going to see it. But you guys suck and I'm going to just hang out with the people that like me.
I think that's universally relatable, which is cool because it's from a very distinct perspective, but everyone can see it through his eyes. I also see it as for me, he's just like, I have the strength already.
Yeah. Y'all
need to come around to it. And when you do, I'll be here already. And I definitely relate to that just throughout life, just feeling like, and things do turn and come around, and it is satisfying to say I told you so sometimes. But
when was the last time you felt that strength where you were like, I'm strong and I'm gonna do it to it?
There's been several times throughout life, and one was coming out here to LA. It's just like, I'm just gonna come out here and do it by myself and figure it out and make it work. Because where I was living wasn't working out. It wasn't, the environment wasn't good for me. It wasn't a creative one. It was more like sort of, and nothing, not to say anything bad toward folks who work in like, say, accounting. I mean, we definitely need you. And the problem is I don't need to do it.
That's what I said in the last episode. Are we so much alike?
We're so much alike. You're ketchup and I'm also ketchup.
On a bit of mustard.
Doing that in the face of, people you grow up with and people around you at my day job at the time, they're kind of like, you're going out to LA to do what? Are you sure? Because you got this sweet desk job right here that you can be punching numbers and writing.
Delicious desk.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm like, no, literally, I go home every day and I bang my head against a wall and say, I can't wait till I leave. And I'm so glad I did that. And when I came out here, I was surrounded by the people who I need in life, the people who are creative, the people who are genuine, who are authentic, who are authentically themselves and pursuing the thing that they identify as, say, like me identifying as a musician.
I wouldn't say that that's like a popular opinion of people in LA, of them being like authentic and genuine. But have you found that to be true?
I find that you can find your people anywhere. And a lot of people shit on LA for having phony people, tons of phony people.
We're real.
Tons of phony people here in LA, but not you. But there's like the artifice and the trying to like convey a certain image and not really being that. And that's like a real concern to me, because I'm just like, look, I'm just going to be me and take it or leave it. I don't care. And that's kind of how I identify with that poem too.
Yeah.
There's a lot of that in LA, but I think there's a lot of that everywhere. If you go into an office, there's going to be the fake people at the office. There's going to be the fake people at your job.
Yeah.
People complain about the nepotism in LA. Yeah. A lot of people are rich only because their parents are rich and they think they've earned it their whole life. A lot of people work their whole life and don't make anything, but if they're true to themselves and doing what they're passionate about, that's what's important to me.
When was the last time you felt physically strong? What was the last feat of strength that you did, like physically?
Physically strong.
Yeah. Lifted a car off of somebody that was trapped under it.
Yeah, I just look for cars that are on people and lift them.
You could.
That's what I'm preparing for, actually. I've been driving around looking for that. I lift weights sometimes. It burns when you have this much anxiety and then you lift weights, you have about this much anxiety.
Yeah.
It shrinks it down a little bit. But it also makes your muscles bigger, which is like a win-win.
Yeah. Like nobody asked you to like open a jar and you were like, I've got it.
Yeah, that I frequently, you know what I like even more than that is
What?
when I was a kid, I used to hate being tall because I felt like I grew faster than everybody and I got a chip on my shoulder, marginalized, anyway. But now at the supermarket, if someone's like, can you grab that off the top shelf for me? I'm like, yes, gladly. And like, I use my superpower to reach tall things.
I like that you're tall. Nay, love that you're tall.
Oh, well, thanks.
Yeah.
I like being tall now. I like my name now. I like being tall now.
You're memorable. Like
Really?
people always, like I notice when they are introduced to you, they're always like, oh, okay. Like it's like very engaging.
Cool.
Yeah.
I guess. Great. Well, that's another thing I think about LA. They get a little ostentatious. They're like, notice me, please. And, that helps here because then they get noticed. I feel like growing up where I did, I was just constantly noticed and I kind of didn't really feel like, not all the time. You don't want people turning their head and staring at you all the time. Well, I don't anyway. So here in LA, it's different. It's like kind of a commodity to be noticed. And I'm like, all right, well, I feel more comfortable here because where I grew up, people were like, you're different. That's weird. And now in LA, they're like, you're different. That's cool. So it's like people value uniqueness here.
It's like in the poem where he's like, what was the line? Besides, they'll see how beautiful I am and be ashamed. There's that note of like when you find that space that's yours and then use it and hearken it. And now it's something that's like you're proud of, but maybe growing up was something that was othering. Yeah. Which wasn't a good thing, but like now do you feel like you're seeing it as that?
I do. I feel like there's a lot of stuff that we're made fun of as kids for. And as you grow older, you start to own those things. And you're like, these are my features, not necessarily my shortcomings.
Like a car.
Yeah. I got a convertible.
Yeah. Power windows.
Yeah. Power steering.
Big old trunk.
How many cup holders though?
34. 34 A cup holders.
Okay. I'll take it.
Yeah, your features.
Yeah.
That are beautiful. You're beautiful.
Thank you, James Blunt.
You're beautiful. It's true.
You're one.
I saw your face in a crowded place.
I'm being serenaded.
And I don't know what to do.
Yeah, maybe creep on me a little bit more, James Blunt.
I know, stalker. He's actually a pretty funny guy.
James Blunt is hilarious. We love him.
What do you know about Langston Hughes? Did you do any sort of delving into him as a guy?
Definitely read him in school.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I read a bunch of his poems. I refreshed my memory last night, Googling, because poetry, I had to Google it. Just, I don't know much more other than what I've read by his work, which is interesting because should we know? I guess I said that earlier. We should know more about the poet themselves, but it's also interesting reading their works and just understanding their works or seeing what they have to say.
He was from one of the more prominent families that had to do with abolitionism. Like his family was involved in the like John Brown, what was that called? The
Brown versus Plessy versus Ferguson.
No, it was like an abolitionist, like a famous battle. The Ethan Hawke made a show about it.
Yeah, Ethan Hawke.
God,
we love Ethan Hawke.
Yeah,
I like Maya Hawke. actually a lot. I think she's great.
Yeah, but I don't want like, to center around Ethan Hawke.
Yeah.
It's not about Ethan Hawke.
This is not about Ethan Hawke, ladies and gentlemen.
But I do love him. Love his stuff about creativity.
Oh, he's cool.
So his family was involved in that. And so they were like very prominent within that movement. But then they were, they didn't benefit from that connection. So they were very like poor but they came from these roots and had this history of this like, iconic history to their family. But he was kind of, starting out without the connections, I guess, like similar to what you were talking about. I'm trying to relate this to your like your mom
keep going
being with a musician and stuff.
I'm the Michael Jackson popcorn eating.
Yeah. Sorry. But yeah, he like came up in the 1920s and during a time when Black culture was having this movement and really being able to be taken seriously and have their spaces and have this have a place for their art to exist in culture and stuff. So he came out of that movement, and that's what I learned about him. And also his work is known for being very accessible to the everyman, which I like. I'm always a fan of.
Not like convoluted esoteric BS.
Yeah, I thought about writing a poem the other day where it's just like just a bunch of words like randomly all over the place, and then it's just called poem.
I think you can do that. I think poet and what's another one? Like poet is cool. It's a great, very important role in society, I think, to be a poet, because you can. You as a poet are able to convey a certain thing that is in the zeitgeist, a certain thing that we experience as humans that we can all tap into. Like ChatGPT can't do that shit yet, because ChatGPT, though it gets creepy though, it gets pretty in the head of somebody. I'm trying to articulate this. I guess what I'm trying to say is that like, being a human, we have these like individual experiences that are also universal. Like say a hangnail on your pinky toe, right? We can all kind of...
I felt it.
Yeah. But ChatGPT is not like, yo, I had this hangnail on my pinky toe. And it's like just these little tiny, that mood when, or like that vibe when, that feeling when.
Yeah.
It hits like this, when people are memeing shit and getting that perfect lane of an emotion or an experience.
It's like casting out a net and then catching people is what it is. It's like, it's about connection.
A public display.
Yeah, it really is. Thank you for plugging the podcast name. Yeah. Like and subscribe, please.
I'm going to plug something else later.
And it's like, because... like the reason to do art is, for your own enjoyment and your own exploration of humanity. But like, there is something about it that is like extroverted. And with poetry, you're basically like taking something, capturing it and bringing it to somebody else, unless, you're not sharing it. But there is a form of, this is my heart. Is this yours too? And being able to connect with it, where like certain types of writing can be for like entertainment or just knowledge and information. But there's something about it that's like, this is like what's happening in here. And it's like the deepness of it that I find lovely.
And it's true and it's real.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The truest thing said in the most delicious way.
Yeah. The most appetizing, delicious. Yeah.
Yeah. And even if it's ugly, it's like still can be a delicious ugliness.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. We feel all kinds of things. And we, just as we taste all kinds of complexities, like our emotions. Words can provide those complexities.
It's like cooking. You know what it is? It's like
all
cooking. It's all really
It all comes back to ketchup and mustard, ladies and gentlemen.
But it's like you're kind of like, you can take ingredients. You can make a hot dog. You just have a hot dog, put some ketchup and mustard on it, and that's delicious and wonderful. And
No relish?
hell yeah.
Come on.
Maybe a little bit of mayo?
Yeah.
Was that controversial?
Not
I
to
don't
me.
care.
Give it to me.
Like you can
Except
have
I'm
that.
vegetarian. It's got to be a veggie dog.
Yeah, veggie dogs. But like that experience is its own thing.
Yeah.
It's beautiful. Like love to bite into a hot dog at like a baseball game.
You're turning me on.
But then...
Go on.
But then, you can have ingredients that are like, remoulade or truffle and
Remoulade, that was my friend. in grade school.
radicchio and artichoke and mussel and butter dripping down
hot
things. And
biscuit.
like it tastes different, but like one thing is not better than the other. It's just different.
Yeah.
But you can use these ingredients in really special ways that like make your heart sing. You bite into a good steak or a souffle or like a good chocolate chip cookie, and it's like somebody has taken these basic things, which are like words, and put them into this space that is like it's like worship. I think. Do you find that in music?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely worship chocolate chip cookies. For sure. That's where you got me.
God, I want one now.
Music is my spirituality. I have thoughts on that too. I think there's like religion, there's ritual, and there's spirituality.
Yeah.
And I think they're separate things, like for example, ritual. We all have that. We wake up, we get a cup of coffee, we eat the toast and read the paper. If you're a granddad. And we all do these rituals. Spirituality now is like that feeling of transcendence. It's like that bird is transcending itself. Right?
Yeah. It's like,
Yeah, it's just singing its soul. There's that feeling of just, and a lot of people get that, both of those things from religion.
Yeah.
Religion's like, here's the ritual to get this feeling.
yeah.
We're religion. Come on down. Buy us.
Give
pay
us your money so that you can have this feeling.
And that's why I don't like organized religion. I'm out. I'm telling you. Listen, you can go ahead and do whatever you like, but I think that the people who want to organize and hijack those aspects of our humanity, and it can help people, I guess, what people tell me. They're like, it helps some people. I'm like, okay, cool, great. All for it. However, on your podcast, I'm going to announce all organized religion is evil. But okay, go ahead.
That bird agrees with you. It's like, preach.
Yeah.
But if people want to organize themselves into a group of people that are like-minded and that, hold the same things special and dear, I think that that's perfectly fine. But it's like the people that kind of are like, you have to do this.
Yeah. I'm talking about predatory type of stuff, like the Catholic Church.
They're not going to come after us.
No.
So you use music as a spiritual experience. Do you have a daily practice?
I've always practiced. The life of a musician is practice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What do you love to play the most?
Lately, I like to play the drums the most. I grew up playing all of the things with strings. So guitars, basses and stuff, and ukulele, piano.
I've just been playing the ukulele. Look at my fingers are all peeling.
Whoa, yeah, you're putting in the practice. Look at that. It's evidence. There's
my
proof.
fingers hurt.
I love it.
Gotta build them up.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah.
I like that.
I like playing music with you. That's definitely an elevated, I don't know what I'd call that. Like, I don't know if I call it a spiritual experience.
It's a dance.
Yeah. An elevated humanity time.
I love it. I think that we're communicating in a different way, on a different level. Like, I don't know if it's a higher level or whatever, which is a different lane. It's a different zone. It's a different dimension.
It's like accessing a different part of yourself. I find that like there is a part of me that gets like a little bit nervous when you do get into that groove, when it is actually good and you're not just like farting around and being like, and then it actually gets good. And then you're like, there's something in me that gets slightly embarrassed. Yeah. Cause it's like,
let's explore that.
I think it's because like, there's that thing of like people maybe seeing you take it seriously and making fun of it, that there's the fear of, where I'm used to joking around about almost everything, that's like a...
You know what I think it might be?
What?
You feel exposed.
Vulnerability.
Yeah.
Eek. Yeah.
Expose yourself. It's inappropriate.
Here, wait, I'll just like, I'll put like a black bar over it. You know what I'll do? I'm going to like, I'll go... Woo! And then I'm gonna put giant man's chest over that, and then it won't get censored.
That's a good idea.
Free the nipple. Speaking of nipples, you brought a poem that your mom used to read to you when you were young.
I do want to circle back to something I started to say earlier, just to kind of like put a button in the Langston Hughes thing, because it's pretty heavy subject. I know that. I thought about that coming into this. I was like, this is pretty heavy, and I know that it could, I don't know, ruffle feathers. But listen, we got to talk about these things. We got to kind of. I need to talk about these things. I like to voice these things, and I think a lot of times people are like, "It's polite company. Don't mention religion, politics, and etc." And
we've touched on them all.
We did.
Racism, politics, religion.
I want to get to the meat, except I'm a vegetarian, so it's got to be veggie dog.
I want to get to the tofu.
I want to get to right down to the seitan. Good rule of thumb. When people are like, I don't know how to address this racial issue that is in the 72-hour news cycle right now, a lot of folks are like, I'm just going to listen. Which is like, okay, that's cool. Usually that's cool with things that are bad. Little rule of thumb. Someone gets shot, unarmed person gets shot in America, black person, it's a good time to listen. Juneteenth becoming a national holiday. Great time to voice yourself and say, hey, this is awesome. America's great for doing that.
Yeah.
And those are, so all of I'd say the celebrations, everyone's voice is good. Everyone's voice is good to like bolster that. But in the times of like unique, like tragedy, I think it's good to be like, okay, let's dial in and listen, and maybe not like sort of speak for people who are suffering those tragedies. That's generally what I tell white folks who are feeling a little bit vulnerable about, or not sure of what to do in a scenario. And I know it's kind of one of those times in history, in American history, where, I don't know, I hope things are changing. They're better than they used to be.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Things will always change.
Yeah.
That's one thing that can be sure of.
Mm-hmm.
And
sure.
Yeah, it's like a lot of weight to take on when it's like the world.
Yeah.
So we can only be responsible for ourselves and not be dicks, but also
fart joke. How you doing?
I'm good.
Yeah.
I'm a little
Are you tense.
I'm a little warm. Do I look tense?
I feel like I just brought so much like heaviness to.
No. I think I liked what you had to say about the like celebration stuff. I think that's really good to articulate. And because I think that there is so much. I think that there's like a fear and a caution now where people are like, I just don't want to offend anybody further. And so they kind of will like lean into certain things and then fuck it up anyways by overthinking it. And it's like there is a lot of pressure there, but also like you can handle pressure. Like there's other people that have been handling a lot more pressure than worrying about like, how to celebrate a holiday the correct way and stuff, where it's like, maybe just keep that anxiety to yourself if you're struggling with like,
well, I see the thing.
Not you. I'm talking about all the like the whites.
I think it's interesting because it ends up backfiring because a lot of times people freeze when they're in that situation. They're like, what do I do? Oh, I guess I just don't say anything. And I understand that, but that's like kind of the worst thing to do. So it's good to support people who have successes socially. Be like, yes, this is a good thing. Let's all celebrate.
Venmo them.
Let's pay people for their problems. But I find life to be full of joy and surprises. And these are just things that this poem by Langston Hughes sort of reminds me of, this aspect of life that it's like, oh, you know, things have come a long way in 100 years. And now but it's interesting to sort of reflect and relate to it in different ways.
Could you read the poem one more time?
Yeah. I too sing America. I am the darker brother. They send me to eat in the kitchen when company comes, but I laugh and eat well and grow strong. Tomorrow, I'll be at the table. When company comes, nobody'll dare say to me, eat in the kitchen then. Besides, they'll see how beautiful I am and be ashamed. I too am America. Another note on that. When I saw the This Is America music video by Childish Gambino, I was like, yep. And a lot of people were kind of like, whoa. And to sort of encapsulate everything I'm saying is like, throughout media and throughout history in America, for instance, black musicians, black comedians, black artists from like all over America have been like, hey, there's structural racism and the police treat us unfairly. And throughout history, like Dave Chappelle in the 90s, he'd be like, oh, the cops beat me up, haha. And everybody's like, haha, cops beat up black people. And then in the 70s, like Richard Pryor would be like, when the cops beat me up. And everybody's like, haha, the cops beat up black people. Decade after decade. And then in 2020, people were like, oh, wait, the cops beat up black people. We should do something about it.
Yeah.
Which is kind of funny because it seemed like a surprise to a lot of people, yet NWA is saying fuck the police in the 80s. And, you know, it's just decade after decade of the same message being told in media over and over again. And then it took 2020 to be like, well, we got the time now that we're locked down. What, we might as well protest?
We all are being paid anyways by the government, which that was the hilarious thing that I thought was like the government is sending everybody these like $600 checks to, you know, for COVID relief. And they're all like, cool, we're going to go out and use this time that we don't have to work to protest you. And so they're like paying us to protest them, which like, I was like, this is hilarious.
Hand me $20. Now F you.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. I think that, it's ironic. But I mentioned my mom earlier. Yeah. She used to read us a lot of poetry as kids, me and my brothers and my sister. And she, in fact, has an affection, an affinity for poetry and would write them herself. And I have one that my mom's wrote for my oldest brother for when he was 2. I don't know what it's called. I think it's just called Kiko. Shout out moms, Susan Dreher. This is a Susan Dreher poem, original.
Yeah, do it justice. This is mom. You gotta bring it home.
While turning the corner, the Kiko got stuck. So onward and upward, fast, by a truck. But as fast as we went, the truck it went fastest. And we let out a scream as it went past us. So if you're turning a corner and your Kiko gets stuck, don't be surprised if you're passed by a truck.
It's so cute. It's like a children's book.
Yeah.
What was the Kiko?
So she wrote, when Chris, my oldest brother, was 2, he would make the sound of Kiko, Kiko, Kiko when he was turning his toy car. So it took them a while to figure out that it was the turn signal that he was He was doing the turn signal sound for his little toy cars.
That's hilarious.
That's pretty great.
Kids are so funny, aren't they?
Yeah.
Thank you for sharing your poem with me. I very much enjoyed it, and I enjoyed looking into Langston Hughes. And I hope somebody makes a film about him if there isn't already one.
I'm sure.
I think that would be good.
Forrest Whitaker.
Yeah, Forrest Whitaker.
How do we wrap it up?
We hug.
We hug?
Yeah.
That's a great way to do it.
I know, right?
Yeah.
Everybody loves hugs.
How do we?
Our mics are going to... Is that going to be feedback?
Our mics... No.
They're trading.
Our mics are hugging.
Oh, wait. This is going to fall.
That's still going to fall. Ish. Come here.
I bet my butt looks great right now. Oh.
Does every guest get a kiss?
That's when the cameras go off.